Have you ever found yourself staring at a blank screen, knowing exactly what you should be doing, yet doing everything else instead? Maybe the dishes suddenly feel urgent, or scrolling social media seems oddly justifiable. You're not alone. Procrastination isn't just a bad habit. It's a silent thief that steals our time, our confidence, and our potential. In fact, studies show that nearly 1 in 5 adults are chronic procrastinators. But this isn't just about laziness. More often, it's rooted in something deeper. Fear. Fear of not doing it perfectly. Fear of judgment. Fear of failure. And that fear, it paralyzes us. It convinces us that staying still is safer than moving forward and possibly falling short. But here's the paradox. By trying to avoid failure, we end up failing ourselves in silence. So what can we do? How do we break this cycle? That's where Stoicism steps in. Not as a trendy philosophy, but as a timeless toolkit for reclaiming agency in our lives. In this video, we're going to explore how Stoic thinking can help you overcome procrastination and finally make peace with the fear of failure. Let's begin by understanding exactly how these mental traps work and why Stoic wisdom may hold the key to freedom. So how exactly can Stoicism help us break free from procrastination and the fear of failure? It begins with one of the most profound ideas in all of Stoic philosophy, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said that there are things in our control and things that aren't. That's it. That's the line in the sand. According to the Stoics, our thoughts, actions, and responses fall under our control. The opinions of others, the outcomes of our efforts, or even whether something succeeds or fails. Those don't. It sounds simple. But in practice, this shift in focus is life-changing. When you focus solely on what's in your control, your effort, your discipline, your ability to take the next small step, you stop being paralyzed by the outcome. You stop obsessing over whether something will be perfect, liked, or successful. You just begin. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you delayed a project not because the task itself was impossible, but because you were already projecting your fears into the future? What if no one reads it? What if I look stupid? What if I fail? But the Stoics would say, those what-ifs don't belong to you. They're distractions, worries, illusions. What belongs to you is this. Will I show up today? Will I sit down and write that first sentence? Will I take the first action, no matter how small? This principle of control is the foundation, and it naturally leads us to the next key Stoic habit, embracing the present moment. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote endlessly about the importance of the now. He reminded himself daily, you live only in this moment. Procrastination thrives when we abandon the present. We replay past mistakes. We anticipate future disasters. We freeze, trapped between regret and fear. But when you root yourself in the present, you take away procrastination's fuel. You're not worrying about whether your future self will succeed. You're just doing what needs to be done right now. Picture this. You've been avoiding writing an important report. It looms large in your mind like a mountain. Every time you think about it, you feel tension in your chest. You imagine the feedback, the pressure, the worst-case scenario. So you scroll, you delay, you tell yourself you'll do it later. But what if instead you pause and return to this moment? You remind yourself, right now, all I need to do is write one sentence. Just one. You let go of how it will be received, whether it will be praised or ignored. You just act. The Stoics weren't passive, they were warriors of the mind. And to win the battle against procrastination, they taught one more strategy: breaking down overwhelming tasks into manageable steps. This might sound obvious, but it's a principle that Stoicism aligns beautifully with. The Stoics believed in taking small, deliberate actions, each aligned with virtue. Not grand, flashy moves, but consistent, intentional steps. Let's say you've always dreamed of writing a book. The idea excites you, but it also overwhelms you. You imagine hundreds, of pages, editing, publishing. It's too much. So you wait. Another year passes. Still no book. Here's the Stoic way. Don't write a book. Write a paragraph. Today, just a paragraph. Then tomorrow, another one. Break it down. Shrink the task until it's something your present self can handle with confidence. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When we picture big, undefined goals, our imagination fills the gaps with fear. But when we narrow our focus to one small, clear task, we rob that fear of its power. This approach not only gets us moving, but it also dissolves the fear of failure, because it's much harder to fear writing a sentence than to fear writing a best-selling novel. Small steps lower the stakes, reduce pressure, and build momentum. So let's connect the dots. You start by focusing on what you can control, not the end result, not the audience, just your action. You bring yourself fully into the present, not stuck in the past or anxious about the future, and you reduce the problem to something small and winnable, a first line, a single email, a 2-minute habit. This is how Stoicism teaches us to dismantle procrastination, not by forcing productivity, but by shifting our mindset, moment by moment. And that fear of failure, it shrinks each time we move, each time we act, each time we remind ourselves, the outcome is not mine. The effort is. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's take a closer look at fear itself, what it really is, how it manipulates our behavior, and how Stoics like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius faced it head-on. It creeps in quietly. It tells us not to try because trying might mean falling short. It whispers that it's safer to dream than to do, safer to stay still than to step forward and possibly make a mistake. But what if that fear isn't something to avoid, but something to understand? The Stoics believed failure isn't our enemy, it's our teacher. And in that one simple shift, everything begins to change. First, let's reframe failure as a learning opportunity. We live in a world that glorifies success. Highlight reels, perfect outcomes, viral moments. But the truth is, every success story, every real one, has a messy, imperfect beginning. Take Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Or Oprah Winfrey, who was once told she wasn't fit for television. Or Michael Jordan, who was cut from his high school basketball team. What separates these people from the rest isn't talent, it's perspective. They saw failure not as a stop sign, but as a stepping stone, as feedback, as fuel for growth. The Stoics would say the same. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, when we stumble, we gain strength. When we fall, we learn how to rise. So next time you fail, at a job interview, a project, a relationship, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask instead, "What is this teaching me?" Because that mindset turns every failure into a path forward. But reframing is just the first step. To truly overcome fear, we have to take on a deeper Stoic lesson, the power of acceptance. Here's something we don't like to admit. Failure is inevitable, no matter how smart we are, no matter how prepared. Sooner or later, something won't go as planned. And that's okay. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, practiced this kind of mental preparation daily. He would remind himself, people will betray you, plans will go sideways, outcomes will disappoint, and yet you must remain calm, centered, present. He didn't say this to make himself cynical. He said it to make himself ready. Because when you accept failure as part of the journey, it loses its bite. It's no longer shocking or shameful. It's just part of being human. Imagine if, instead of fearing failure, you expected it, welcomed it, even embraced it. How much lighter would you feel? How much more willing would you be to try to take risks, to put yourself out there? Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means acknowledging that life is unpredictable and choosing to show up anyway. And that leads us to the third and perhaps most empowering Stoic principle. Focus on the process, not just the outcome. This is where so many of us get stuck. We obsess over the end result, the grade, the paycheck, the praise, the applause, and in doing so, we overlook the only thing that actually matters, the effort. The Stoics teach that virtue lies in how we live, not in what we get from living. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." What does that mean in practice? Let's say you're launching a new business. If you focus only on getting rich, you'll feel anxious every time sales dip or clients cancel. But if you focus on being excellent every day, serving customers, while refining your craft, learning constantly, you'll feel proud no matter the outcome because you did what you could. You acted with integrity. You gave your best. This mindset is powerful. It shifts your attention from what you can't control, external results, to what you can, your effort, your intention, your discipline. And here's the paradox. When you focus on the process, the outcomes often take care of themselves. You become better, sharper, more resilient. And fear? It fades into the background. Let's recap. You overcome the fear of failure first by reframing failure as feedback, a tool for learning and growth. Then you build resilience by accepting failure as a natural part of life, something to face rather than avoid. And finally, you empower yourself by shifting focus from results to the process, reclaiming your energy and self-worth from outcomes you can't control. These Stoic practices don't promise that life will always go your way, but they do promise that you'll always have a way forward, even when things fall apart. And that's the kind of inner strength that no failure can take away from you. Now that we've explored the Stoic mindset, you might be wondering, how do I actually apply all this in daily life? How do I carry this philosophy from the pages of Marcus Aurelius into the chaos of Monday morning, into the heart of a difficult conversation, or that moment when fear tells you to hit snooze instead of showing up? This is where Stoicism truly shines, not as abstract theory but as a daily practice. Let's explore 3 powerful Stoic strategies you can start using today to bring this philosophy to life: journaling, mindful breathing, and visualization. Daily journaling. Face your mind on paper. Imagine waking up, grabbing a notebook, and writing out your thoughts before the world rushes in. Sounds simple, right? But this one practice, Stoic journaling, has changed lives for centuries. Marcus Aurelius did it every day. His personal reflections became meditations, now one of the most powerful books in Western philosophy. Why journal? Because procrastination and fear often come disguised as thoughts, quiet, looping voices in your head whispering things like, "I'm not good enough," or "This has to be perfect." When you write, you bring those fears into the light. You take the power away from that vague anxiety and give it form. You can now examine it, challenge it, disarm it. A Stoic journal isn't about recording your day. It's about reflecting on your inner world. Try this. At the start of each day, ask yourself, what might tempt me to procrastinate today? What fears might hold me back? How will I choose to act with courage and clarity? By writing this out, you're no longer passively reacting to fear. You're facing it with intention. You're becoming the observer of your mind, not its prisoner. And over time, you start to see patterns. You catch your excuses in the act. You create a feedback loop of awareness that strengthens your mental discipline. Mindful breathing. Find calm in the chaos. Let's be honest, modern life is noisy. There are notifications, deadlines, pressure from every direction. Your nervous system is constantly under siege. No wonder we freeze up, zone out, or endlessly delay the things that matter. This is why the Stoics practiced stillness, and one of the most accessible ways to cultivate it is through mindful breathing. No incense, no apps. Just this. Sit close, your eyes. Inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold again for 4. Repeat. This is called box breathing, a simple but powerful method to regulate your nervous system. But it's more than just a calming technique. It's training. Every time you breathe mindfully, you're learning to pause before reacting. You're reminding yourself that you are not your fear. You are not your urge to escape, delay, or hide. The Stoics believed that true strength came from composure, from the ability to stay steady, especially when the mind screams otherwise. So next time you feel that tension in your chest, that urge to check out, pause. Breathe. Return to your center. One breath might be all it takes to change the course of your day. Visualization and positive affirmations. Rehearse resilience. Here's something unexpected. The Stoics used visualization. 2. No, not in the modern law of attraction sense. They weren't manifesting luxury yachts. They practiced what's called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Each morning, they would mentally prepare for the day's potential setbacks. Traffic, rudeness, rejection, failure. Why? Because expecting challenges makes you stronger. You're less likely to be thrown off course when things go wrong, because you've already rehearsed your response. But we can take it one step further. Visualize your response to success too. Picture yourself completing that project, making the call, taking the first step. Feel the emotion of following through. See yourself choosing courage over comfort. When you combine this visualization with positive affirmations, it reinforces confidence. Try starting your day with phrases like, I take action even when I'm afraid. Progress matters more than perfection. My worth isn't tied to the outcome. I am responsible for effort, not results. Said consistently, these aren't empty words. They become internal scripts, new beliefs that replace fear and hesitation with clarity and strength. The Stoics believe that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When your thoughts are grounded in courage, presence, and purpose, you become that too. These 3 practices, journaling, mindful breathing, and visualization, aren't about becoming someone else. They're about returning to who you already are when fear and procrastination aren't in control. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need a retreat. You don't need perfect conditions. All you need is a quiet corner, 5 minutes, and the willingness to show up. Because in the end, Stoicism is not about suppressing fear. It's about walking with it, facing it, and choosing action anyway. Now that we've journeyed through the wisdom of Stoicism, from understanding procrastination and fear, to conquering it with philosophy, to applying practical, grounded tools, in daily life it's time to bring it all together, because knowledge alone isn't transformation. What changes your life is what you do with it. So let's recap the core ideas we've covered, and then talk about how you can start making them real in your day-to-day life. First, we explored the root of procrastination and fear of failure. We saw that procrastination isn't laziness. It's usually fear in disguise, fear of imperfection, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. The Stoics teach us that we don't have to be ruled by those fears, that by changing how we see them, we can change how we respond. And that's where the power of Stoicism begins. Next, we introduced 3 core Stoic principles to break through the mental blocks. Focus on what's in your control. The dichotomy of control teaches us to separate what we can influence from what we can't. Our actions belong to us. The results do not. This alone can free us from the need to be perfect. Embrace the present moment. Stoicism aligns deeply with mindfulness. When we live in the present, not trapped by the past or paralyzed by the future, we act with more clarity, courage, and effectiveness. Break down overwhelming tasks. Big goals feel scary, but when you reduce them to one small action, one sentence, one push-up, one honest conversation, fear shrinks and momentum builds. Then, we tackled the fear of failure itself. We reframed failure as feedback, a teacher rather than a threat. We leaned into the idea that failure is a part of life, not a verdict on your worth. And we shifted our focus from obsessing over outcomes to honoring the process, recognizing that real power lies in showing up with integrity and effort, not in chasing praise or validation. And finally, we shared 3 Stoic tools you can start using immediately. Journaling to uncover hidden fears and set intentional focus. Mindful breathing to center yourself in moments of stress. Visualization and positive affirmations to train your mind for resilience and courage. These aren't abstract. They're not complicated. They're small, doable, and incredibly effective when done consistently. So here's your next step. Don't try to do all of it at once. That's just another form of overwhelm in disguise. Instead, pick 1 or 2 practices that resonated with you most. Just one principle, just one tool, and start there. Maybe that means journaling every morning for 5 minutes, or maybe it's pausing to breathe deeply before answering an email you've been avoiding. Maybe it's repeating a single affirmation when your inner critic speaks up. Whatever it is, make it small, make it real, and make it today. Because Stoicism isn't something you just think about. It's something you live. If you're ready to go deeper, there are powerful resources out there to support you. Here are a few timeless classics and modern guides worth exploring. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. A daily window into the mind of a philosopher king. Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. Practical wisdom in the form of personal letters. The Enchiridion by Epictetus. A short, powerful handbook on mastering the mind. Modern reads, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Bite-sized Stoic wisdom paired with modern reflections. How to be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. A practical approach for 21st century living. These books don't just inspire, they guide. And they remind you that you're not the only one walking this path. People have been seeking clarity, discipline, and peace for thousands of years. You're in good company. Before we close, I want you to take a moment and imagine something. Imagine what your life could look like if you weren't held back by fear, if procrastination didn't win, if your daily choices were guided not by emotion or anxiety, but by wisdom and intention. What would you create? Who would you become? That version of you isn't far away. It's built one small Stoic act at a time, so choose your action, start small, and begin today. If this video resonated with you, here's what you can do next. Hit that like button to let us know this content matters. Subscribe to the channel for more Stoic insights, practical tools, and powerful stories to fuel your journey. And share this video with someone you know is battling their own fears. Someone who just needs a little nudge to remember they're not alone. Your journey toward inner strength starts with one small decision. Make it count. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep choosing courage over comfort. And remember, the Stoics didn't wait for motivation. They acted anyway. So can you.